Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them, and I do love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that I have plot synopsis and character bios for this issue. Captain America 334 from 1987. This is continuing the story of John Walker as Captain America. I have a playlist in which I showed how Steve Rogers stopped being Captain America and now with his replacement. So feel free to check it out if you've missed anything. So we got this great cover by Mike Zeck here. And then this is one of his buddies here who'll be the new Bucky for now, because there'll be a name change for him. So Bob McLeod is the inker. So I'm gonna show. I think this cover is really good. So this is from that old style, still from the 70s, where they make marks for no random reason. They just put it in here kind of for some shading, I think is the whole purpose of it. But you would see a lot of this in the 70s, just making marks for seems randomly. There's no rhyme or reason for putting it here, or the some of the decisions they make with the hatching I totally understand, but then some of it, like here, um so yeah, so like I said, I do like this cover. So this issue is written by Mark Gruenwald, who will be the longest tenured writer for Captain America of all time. I think Ed Brubaker is second, but Mark Gruenwald really loved Captain America. So here we are. We have John Walker. There is no more Steve Rogers for now. And he's looking at these videos of Captain America here. We're in Maryland here in Fort Meade. And so John Walker says he's thinking here, he was pretty good in his prime till I began studying him. I had no idea how good, but I'm Captain America now, and he's not. No matter how good he was, I'm going to be better. So here we have our credits here of Mark Gruenwald, Tom Morgan, and Dave Hunt. Jim Shooter is still editor-in-chief, but I believe he won't have too long. He won't be editor-in-chief. Again, we see the inking almost seems at random. And so we're going to have a little bit of exposition here. Of course, this is, he mentions here, it's John Walker, the former super patriot. So he continues thinking here, when the original Cap resigned the commission, the commission had to get somebody, and I'm the best man for the job. Still learning, another man's moves hasn't been the piece of cake I thought it'd be. And so he continues here watching. Right there, a bit with the shield. I've replayed it twice and still can't figure out how he did it. And so he slow motions it and just trying to study, as he mentions here. So I'm going to go ahead and keep going here. And so this is Valerie Cooper. And if you are follow the X-Men, she's from that. She was like a government person. And then Peter David's run on X Factor, which I have not covered. I'll probably get to it in a few years. But during Peter David's run on X Factor, she's quite important here. So she's watching also here. She's thinking about how he was only supposed to look at these tapes for a half hour, but he still even past his break, he's still looking at him. And so the general comes in asking how he's doing here, and Valerie answers him. And she tells him he's doing well, he's conscientious, has respect for his predecessor's work, and confidence that he can replace him and live up to that. And then this guy asks if he'll be ready on time by the specified date. She says he's capable, but they can't find anybody to actually teach him what he doesn't already know. And Freedom Force make good sparring partners, but they're not very good instructors. They said they did find someone, and they'll let her know as soon as they clear the red tape. Of course, she then wonders who the heck they got, and we'll find out in the coming issues. The phone rings here, and you can see on the other line, they said it's Ethan Thune on line 3, and she says put him through, and she wonders how this person got her private number. So, I'm not thrilled with this image here. I mean, it's serviceable, not dynamic, not exciting. Just Captain America did not really have the artistic. It wasn't a high priority. So they had tried some stuff, but I mean, if they would have had, Todd McFarlane was on Hulk, I believe, during this time, but he'd be in Spider-Man soon. I believe Jim Lee was about to start Punisher during this time, and then Mark Silvestri was on X-Men during this time. So those were the books that Marvel was concentrated on, and unfortunately during John Byrne had left. He was at DC during this time. It doesn't seem, if you've been following this Cap run that I've been covering, it doesn't seem that Marvel put their best artist during this time. So Cap's gonna go here for shield practice, and then he sees his friend here, and his friend Lamar is going to be the new Bucky, and he asks, how does he look? And Cap says, you look pretty snazzy. He's also got his own education, his own learning here. So Captain America shows up, and this guy says, you're a minute late, soldier. That'll be an extra 600 squat thrusts at the end of the sessions. And so, I like it. I ain't interested in your excuses, chump. So, alright, so here we go. And so, sort of like the Danger Room, they're going to just toss at him. So I'm not going to read all that. We're just kind of going to look here. And he's looking at, practicing throwing the shield, avoiding stuff. And so this whole session takes about 15 minutes. And so they said, it's over. You dismantled everything. And Walker apologizes for it. And so the commander says here, if this training session were real, pal, you'd have killed or grievously injured 17 people and died 3 times yourself. And John Walker understands. He says, yes, sir. But he says, at least you're improving. Yesterday you killed 23 people and died 5 times. So he says, you got to learn to watch the strength of yours, kid. You keep throwing the shield harder than you have to. And so, and you can see it here. He doesn't like using the shield here, but of course the shield is indestructible, made with vibranium and adamantium here. So here the Blob's teasing him. This is when the Brotherhood was Freedom Force. You can see Mystique and Destiny, the Blob, Pyro, and Avalanche. He's like, yo, Captain, someone stuck a serving tray on your back. So, and so they're making fun of all the new recruits here. And the new Bucky doesn't like it here. And Cap says, hey, they're just trying to get a rise out of you. So, and so We talk a little bit about Freedom Force, about how they used to be crooks and stuff, and how Freedom Force probably feels threatened by them because they'll be relegated. Uh, you know, Captain America and Bucky will take primary. So Valerie Cooper shows up here and asks for a word. She says that their former associate, Mr. Thurm, has been harassing her office, demanding to see Captain America, and she assumes he got her name and number from John Walker. So she says, told Thurm that if he calls one more time, he'll be up to his neck in government heat, and to be more careful in the future. So the new Captain America says he must have copied it from where he had written it down. And Captain America continues here and says, if I know Ethan, he'll keep the calls just to make us look bad. So, all right. So later that afternoon here, you can see them here now ready for more. They're going to set up a new sparring session. So, they say, I don't expect you to win this. Just stay alert and come out in one piece. And Cap says, the Sarge really inspires confidence, doesn't he? And the new Bucky says, we'll show him. Let's whoop him. So here they go. And so again, I'm not going to, really nothing is going to be there. The writing's kind of there just to slow us down so that you feel like you read something. But it's really just about his training here. So you can see here this Bucky. This Bucky is also super powered also. So he's pretty strong. I mean, he has strength. He doesn't have powers per se. He can't fly. He doesn't have heat vision or anything like that. But both of them have super strength. And I have covered all that. So feel free to check that out if you so would wish. So after the end of the sparring session here, it took him 12 minutes to beat the guards here, and he's got more work ahead if they hope to graduate. And this guy here says, "Hey, not too bad though." So John is feeling a little bit of a failure, and Bucky tells him, "You're too hard on yourself. I doubt the original Captain Bucky could do much better." And the new Captain America says, then you haven't seen the training films. We really got to get it together, Lamar, or we're going to last 1 minute out in the real world. I'm gonna make a phone call. So love the payphone. And so Captain America is calling Ethan here and says, no, I can't talk to you. I'm not allowed off base until. And then he goes, you'll do what, Ethan? You'll be in more trouble than you can imagine if you so much as open your mouth to the press. He says, okay, I'll meet you midnight tonight at the sandbar at exit 22 off Interstate 95. I'll be there. So, all right. So now it says here at 11. And you can see John Walker is dressed in his civilians. Lamar says, well, if you're going to go through with this, I'm going to go with you. And John Walker says, no sense in both of us going AWOL. That's absent without leave. He says, if they kick you off, I don't want to be here anyway. We're a team. We stick together. And John Walker says, okay, hurry up. We got a big run ahead of us. So here's that sandbar. Of course, he was their manager. He says he's disappointed that he left them high and dry here. He says he put in a lot of effort, money, he invested a lot. And then John Walker says, there was nothing I could do about it, Ethan. Your own dubious background made it impossible for the government to hire you as a consultant. And so he says, I want $1 million to keep my mouth quiet or he'll go. And John Walker, of course, is not very happy. He says, don't you dare blackmail Uncle Sam. And Lamar says, hey, chill out, John. And Ethan says, $1 million is chicken feed for the Defense Department. They probably pay more for toilet paper. So what would $1 million be in today? About 10 million, a million back then, be about 10 million now, maybe. So Ethan says, Walker, you owe me. I found you. I would have made a nice chunk of change as your manager. I can't take that loss lightly. You tell whoever you gotta tell to get back to me by noon Friday, or your secret identity will be in Sunday's paper. And Lamar says, let's go, John. The stink in here is getting to me. Most of the time, the government would just have you killed, but hey. So Lamar asks, do you think the feds would care? And John Walker says they absolutely would. They don't want to know that he's a replacement from the original. So Lamar says, hey, why don't you just uh, pretty much beat up Ethan? And so John uh, John Walker's like, you mean? And then he goes, no, if we did, we'd have to lean on his bodyguard, Jerome and Hector. Ethan may be scum, but those guys are buddies. Besides, we don't dare do anything that might jeopardize our careers. So, and so here we got the next day here as Lamar and John Walker are walking. Captain America says he was up all night going over their options. I finally came up with a conclusion that he thinks he was right, that they're going to have to do something about Ethan themselves. He says he can't put his problems on somebody else. He has to handle them himself. Now that he's Captain America, he's got to live up to certain standards. So, and so I think Bucky's going to taking perhaps I think he might be a high school dropout. So he's they're helping him get a GED. He's taking classes. So all right, so here comes Captain America for his next thing. And so I thought this was later on, but this is the what I mentioned in the next couple days. But they bring in the Taskmaster to teach him how to use the shield, because of course the Taskmaster has what they call photographic memory, ID. The actual name ID. I cannot say it. Look it up on Google. But it used to be called photographic memory, but it's eidetic. Just look it up on Google. So he's gonna teach him how to use the shield here. So, all right, and so here we go. He's gonna go through it. So when he sees something, he remembers it. So has to see it once, and so basically that he's the one that's going to teach John Walker how to be Captain America here. So, and you can see him practicing. So for 2 hours here they practiced. So Taskmaster is like a criminal, so you can see him that once they use him, they are sending him back to lock up here. So Captain America says, I called Ethan. I set up another meeting for tonight. I came up with a plan to shut him up for good without him or anyone else knowing it was us. And so here we go. He's going to tell him the plan, but of course we're not. So they're going to go into the armory and they're going to put on those costumes or those suits or those armors, and so they're gonna go and handle it themselves. So you can see they arrive and they grab Ethan here, who yells for help and wants his bodyguards to help him. And this has to be John Walker, so I will assume this would be Lamar. And he says, don't do anything. But of course they do. And Lamar, you can see him hit this guy and off they go flying. So all right, so he says, I'm only going to tell you this once, Mr. Sun. The identity of the new Captain America is a matter of national security. If word leaks out, we'll know it's your fault, and there's nowhere on Earth to hide from us. Do you know how long we put people away for treason? And so you can see this guy being here. And um, so he continues to fight here, and they activated this hand blaster here, which hits him here, and knocks him down. It was an accident. They didn't mean to do it. And so they're going to get out of there before more people come. So, and so we're almost done here. So the next morning here, Captain America is sitting there. He goes, I feel terrible. Why, oh, why didn't we take a few nights to familiarize ourselves with the armor before taking off with it? I want to handle the problem. I'm all by myself, just like the original Captain America would, but I blew it. Would Cap really have disguised himself as someone else? Maybe would he, maybe, sorry, maybe, period. Okay. Would he have made threats, destroy property? Probably not. Injured a civilian? Definitely not. Well, if I'm lucky, Jerome will be okay and Ethan will lay off here. So Valerie Cooper says, Captain, I'd like to talk to you about some incidents that occurred last night, namely a break-in at the armory and a fight in an area tavern. And so John Walker says, she suspects me. What do I do now? If I own up to what I did, she may boot me out of the program. Maybe. She doesn't. Maybe. She doesn't suspect me. If I were to lie, no. I must think, what would Cap do in this situation? And he says, ma'am, I took that armor and wrecked that tavern. So he comes clean, and then the end. So, there we go. So, Captain America 334 by Mike Gruenwald and Tom Morgan. We're seeing now John Walker kind of learning the ropes, as to say here. So, like and subscribe. I do thank you for listening. Goodbye.